Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to another episode of Read With Me. I'm yours truly, Isabel Badell, and I am here to read with you. That's right. I am so excited to continue reading this amazing book, Invent It, Sell It, Bank It, by the one and only Lori Greiner. She is the star of ABC Shark Tank. She is the inventor of over 400 different products. And her first product, she was able to launch it in 4 months, just in time for holiday season where she became a millionaire, which is truly an amazing story because she did it back in the day, like 1997. And there was no like real source of information. There was no Instagram, no Facebook, no LinkedIn, no YouTube. It was just hustle, man. Just hustle. She went to 19 different states in 21 days and she made the impossible happen. So I absolutely love that because the way we started our business, Ivy Leads, was straight up hustle. Okay. We were living in Thailand and we needed to make something happen. And we began DMing people on Instagram, on Facebook, and we began asking them questions like, what do you need right now? How can we best serve you in your business? And we fell in love with our target audience, which is coaches, because their vulnerability to help others from the same exact thing that they have overcome. So we work with business coaches, divorce coaches. We work with life coaches, relationship coaches, life coaches that specialize in specific sectors within life itself. And there's so many different motivational coaches. There's so many different types of coaches now, but back in the day, it was very, very direct and intentional and very targeted. And what we seem to see now, like how the market is and how the market responds to authenticity, it's through content, right? And one thing that I love about Lori, okay, is that she's always keeping it authentic. If you go into her Instagram, if you go into Shark Tank, you watch her on the show, like you can tell she's being authentic and she's real and she's not trying to like, make herself seem bigger than she already is. She's just Lori, which I absolutely love that. But what I'm really excited about is to get into chapter 3 of this book. Okay. It's called You've Got a Great Idea. Now what? And I'm really excited for this because we're going to go through the entire chapter, and this one is going to be a good one. I feel it already. If you haven't checked out the introduction, chapters 1 and 2, make sure to check out the other videos. They are fire. So let's get into it, shall we? Awesome. Okay, so you've got a great idea. Now what? If you're interested, you'll do what's convenient. If you are committed, you'll do what it takes. John Asraf. That's a good way to start this. I already have a good feeling about it. On his first day of work as a mailroom clerk at the mega corporation Hatsucker Industries, Norville Barnes, the hero of Joel and Ethan Cohen's screwball comedy, The Hudsucker Proxy, shows his co-worker a simple drawing of a circle on a rumpled piece of paper. This is my ticket upstairs, he says proudly. For kids. The co-worker looks at him in dumbfounded confusion. A few minutes later, Barnes takes advantage of a moment in front of Sidney Musburger, the company's chairman, to pull the drawing out of his shoe, carefully making sure the circle is shown right side up. He said, for kids. Musburger glares at him like a moron. Later, Barnes makes a prototype, but as he energetically makes his pitch for what we now know is a hula hoop, the company board stares at him uncomprehendingly. Even at Barnes' invention is Even after Barnes' invention is produced, in spite of the large color poster of a child spinning a hula hoop around his waist and front row placement in the window of the town toy store, no one buys it. It isn't until the store owner throws the plastic rings out into the street and a little boy picks it up and starts to twirl it around his waist, to the delight and astonishment of his friends, that the toy becomes a hit. The movie is a satirical take on corporate America, but with these scenes, it humorously depicts the truth of what one Shark Tank entrepreneur said when she came into the tank to pitch. A product can sound like a really great idea, but it's not until people can see it, feel it, or touch it that they can experience the wow factor that leads to sales. I like that. Poor Norville Barnes didn't even have the benefit of a great sounding idea, and on paper, his design was meaningless. But once the product made it into the hands of its intended audience, his invention finally revealed its true best-selling potential. Let me repeat that one more time. Once the product made it into the hands of its intended audience, his invention finally revealed its true best-selling potential. That's strong. It's just a movie, but in its exaggerated way, the Hudsucker Proxy illustrates why a well-designed prototype tested by the people you think will want to use it is crucial to the success of your product. Every step you take from this point, from conducting market research to getting funding to landing your first sale, will depend entirely upon the perfection of your working prototype. Your prototype is what can transform a potential consumer or retail buyer's reaction to your idea from a tepid, "How nice," to an insistent, "How fast can we get these into the store?" Plus, this is your chance to make your product the best version of itself it can possibly be. Try not to be so easily satisfied. Until your prototype is exactly right, it's not ready to share with anyone. Introducing your product to the world is no different from introducing yourself for a job interview. You've got about 10 seconds to make a good first impression, and you only get one chance, so make it count. Another reason why prototypes are important is that the trial and error process of making one teaches you everything you need to know about your product, what materials are best suited to make it, how complicated the manufacturing process will be, how easy it will be for a customer to assemble it, and whether it even really works. It allows you to fix problems now while it's cheap, not later on, when you've got 20,000 units suffering from a design flaw. Today, my factories and suppliers make my prototypes. We've worked together for a long time, so they know me well and have a sense of what I want. I can grab a napkin or a piece of paper and sketch out the approximate dimensions of my idea, and their design engineers can draft more sophisticated drawings from that. They send me a first sample, and then we perfect the design along the way. I send them fabric swatches or color ideas often using Pantone matching system, PMS, color books, a system that allows you to explain and share the colors you want for anything from packaging to fabrics to book covers. And every designer knows what you mean. A PMS 326. We email ideas back and forth. Once I'm satisfied, the design is sent to one of my manufacturers who uses the drawing and other information to create a perfect sample of my product. So I have a lot of help with my prototypes, but back when I was just starting out, All I had were my own two hands and a set of power tools that I didn't know how to use. That's awesome. I like what this particular line that she says here. We email ideas back and forth. Once I'm satisfied, the design is sent to one of my manufacturers. Okay. And I really like this process. I can grab a napkin or a piece of paper and sketch out the approximate dimensions of my idea. The design engineers can draft more sophisticated drawings from that. That really aligns with, having a team with you, especially a team that grows with you. The type of team that you can just kind of have some of the ideas of it. Like, for example, I'll share with you, like, we're doing a workshop this month on membership creation and how to do it. And well, I didn't come up with the idea. It was our team that saw a need within our customers, and they were able to assemble the entire format of that particular course because of the precedent of all the other membership courses that we've created, all of the other workshops that we've created, and the type of responses that we've gotten throughout the years from our audience that has justified that that type of idea would make sense. And that is powerful. That is so powerful because she mentions, like, they've been with her for a while. Okay. So this is a very, very important part of the process and I'm taking it very like intentional because, we're in the process of expansion. So for me, like, this is so, so good. I hope it is for you too. All right, let's get into it because she's about to get into the first draft. Okay. Many people find inspiration in the shower or other environments where they get a chance to relax and shut out the noise and distractions of the outside world. I often have a eureka moment when I'm sitting in an airplane where there are no phones ringing, no interruptions. It's one of my only places to get some quiet time to think. Girl, me too. I freaking love that. I think the best when I am 20,000 feet in the air. It's so true. I don't know why, but that is definitely my happy place as well. It's one of my only places I get some quiet time to think. However, the first bolt of inspirational lightning was that launched in my career hit me during my massage. My friend Pam was a massage therapist, and one day while she was working on me, we started commiserating about one of our pet peeves, the annoying fact that there was no good way to store your earrings. You wound up having to throw them all in a heap in your jewelry box. If you owned more than a few pair, you'd lose a back or find one of the two just when you were in a hurry to get out of the house. My head still squashed into the massage table's face hole. I sighed. There has to be a better way. And that's when literally a flash, like a lightning bolt, a picture appeared in my mind. Instantly, a fully formed sliding earring stands, one behind another, on top of a base. They slide to the left and to the right. So you could easily and see everything at a quick glance. It would hold pierced and clip-on earrings and take up a small space. It was different from anything else out there. Like all entrepreneurs, I was certain it was a hero and that every woman on earth would want one. This was not the first time I'd had an idea that I thought could be a commercial hit. Not long before the eureka moment, I've had an idea for a collection of modern, updated fairy tales, which I called Fairy Tales for the 90s. They were alternative to the traditional versions that were so sexist and unnecessarily scary. They needed to be updated for our time. I had written Several stories when one day, while checking out purchases at a Barnes& and Nobles, I happened to look down and see an easel holding a copy of a book called Politically Correct Bedtime Stories. The book's jacket was prominently displayed, and on it there was a starburst saying New York Times bestseller. Well, that was that. Of course, there was no guarantee that my book would have made it big, but if there already was a book of modernized fairy tales on the bestseller list, the idea was on the right track, and I had just missed the boat. The next time I had an idea I thought was a hero, I was going to act on it immediately and think more about question number 3 in the previous chapter. After my idea hit me on the massage table, I raced home with my mind on fire. It was July. If I wanted to get my product into stores for Christmas, I was going to have to get moving fast. Little did I know that most buyers shore up their fourth quarter orders, which include the holiday season, in April. When Dan walked through the door, I said, "Honey, I have a great idea." He thought the organizer sounded interesting and told me to sketch it out. I pulled out a sheet of paper, a pencil, and a ruler and started drawing. Once I had transposed the picture in my head onto the page, I started to think about the dimensions it would need to be. I thought about my space and my mother's in the bathrooms, bedrooms, and closets of all the women I knew. I wanted to create an organizer that would hold 3 times as many earrings as the typical jewelry box, yet be compact enough that it wouldn't sit like the Hulk on a woman's vanity or bathroom counter. My drawing skills are just okay. I tried to be as meticulous as and neat as I could, but my style is kind of sloppy, big and wild, true to my artistic nature. When I draw on a pad of paper, my columns aren't straight. I write on a diagonal. Dan, on the other hand, writes in neat, precise little lines. He is detail oriented like an engineer. So once I got the basic design of the organizer down, I asked him to redraw it. He pulled out some graph paper and drew the organizer according to my specifications. We talked and drew and erased and measured and drew some more until finally Dan handed me a perfect representation of the organizer I had envisioned in my head. It was beautiful. It held 100 pairs of pierced or clipped-on earrings on five sliding stands that allowed you to see all the earrings at a quick glance. Looking back, it's incredible that Dan didn't question whether this idea was really something I should pursue. He's cautious, not at all the type to push the envelope. And yet, in this instance, he was on board from the moment I told him about my idea. If you're artistically challenged or your idea is complicated and you're unable to make your own accurate design and you don't have someone like Dan to help you, you can hire a design engineer to drive for you. Design engineers will work with you to draft a computer-aided design on CAD, which is essentially a 3D blueprint that can be viewed and spun around on your PC, then manipulated, tested, and altered before being sent into a prototype maker or manufacturer. In an increasingly common process called CAD/CAM, computer-aided design, computer-aided manufacturing, the prototype makers or manufacturers' computers send the CAD data to machines to direct them how to make the product. Commissioning a CAD can be a pricey option, though. If money is an issue, you might consider going to the local college or university and hiring an engineering student to design your CAD. One advantage to CAD is that you can sit with the designers while they're working and see your virtual product take shape into the computer monitor. This gives you the ability to tweak things along the way before actually trying to build it. CADs are impressive in their quality and accuracy. The finished drawings, it makes it look like your product is going to jump off the page. That's so awesome. And she's right. Always go to like a student, especially architecture students. Like I remember there was always this one guy, he always came in from the business school. And he always had crazy little things like he wanted to create latches for desks. He always had like this thing where he wanted to have like a rolling backpack, but it wasn't a rolling backpack. He always had like little inventions, and then he always used one of the freshmen in the architecture program to start creating variations on that on CAD, or that's AutoCAD, by the way, that's the program CAD. And then there's also this thing called SketchUp. So Google SketchUp, Google came out with this awesome user friendly, like you and I, we can both go on it. I think it should be free still. It probably is. It's a great program, very simple to use, but the measurements are really awesome. You can literally take those measurements and create like a laser printer. You can use a laser printer and assemble the pieces right away. Definitely awesome. That's how I used to make my models in architecture school. Models being like, the 3D version of the 3D version, the digital 3D version that was on paper. We would take it out and build it and then present it. Okay, let's get back to this, okay? Creating a mock-up. Many times I've picked up a new product on the market and wondered if the person who designed it ever actually tried to use it. You can always tell the items that an individual or a company designed just to make a buck. A pancake batter dispenser that leaves all the blueberries crushed and smeared against the inside of the dispenser instead of leaving them plump and whole in the pancake of the griddle. That couldn't have been designed by someone who loves blueberry pancakes or who had even tested it. Testing and retesting is your product. Your product is really, really important, by the way. A lipstick holder too shallow to probably hold a lipstick couldn't have been designed by a woman who actually wears lipstick and wanted to create a better way to store her makeup. You tend to know what a market needs if you are in the market. Of course, you can successfully create products for demographics beyond your own. You'll just need to be extra careful with your market research and how you target that audience. You tend to know what a market needs if you are in the market. True. Stories abound of inventors using everyday materials from home, like cardboard, clay, foam, wood, and disassembled house products to create precursors to prototypes called mock-ups that test their designs and ensure they actually work. Rick Hopper created models of his magnetized glasses holder by bending paper clips into various shapes and experimenting with different strengths and magnets. The creator of this drop stop experimented with multiple types of stuffing and stitching before deciding upon the final decision of their invention. I wanted to be sure my design would work the way I thought it would before committing to the expense of a prototype. I mean, how hard can it be? All I needed was to do a few round rods and crossbars to size and drill a few holes, and my organizer would be complete. I even knew where I could get my hands on the right tools, a basement shop in rural Illinois that belonged to my husband's father. The problem was being a city girl. Though I had access to tools, I had no idea how to use them. I needed help, so I turned to my husband, Dan, who was extremely handy and had plenty of experience. Great job, Dan. Way to be there. I've gone on record saying that, in principle, inventors should do as much as possible themselves because it is cheaper than hiring everything out. And more important, the experience and expertise you gain sets you up much better for success later. With enough time, you can learn how to do anything. The problem is, of course, that some jobs are just out of our league. And when time is short, speed and efficiency sometimes need to take precedence over principle. In addition, if you're going for the mass market, you're eventually going to have to navigate certain rules regarding your industry. You'll have to adhere to previously unknown safety regulations, and you have to learn about labeling for the American market, the European market, and whatever market you're planning to sell to. Each has its own rules and regulations. They are not always one and the same. It's unlikely you have the training to deal with that on your own. Even if you were capable of making your own product on your own in large enough quantities to fulfill mass orders, you wouldn't want to be forced to stop selling because you didn't research and comply with the laws and governing the manufacture or use of your product. Whenever you do ask someone to take over a job, make sure to stay close to the process and learn as much as possible. Shadow the person you hire if you can. Ooh, I like that. Shadow the person that you hire. Talk with the individual, watch and listen. So by the time that person is done, you are on your way to becoming an expert in this area too. As long as you take the opportunity to educate yourself, any money you spend on hiring experts to help or advise, it will be all well spent. I totally agree with that. 100%. 100%. Dan and I drove to his grandfather's workshop together. I hovered nearby as he cut the wood according to my specifications. He was patient, taking my nerves in stride, parts cut. We assembled the organizer, and then I spent a long time attaching earrings to the rods and moving all the parts around to make sure that each piece worked the way I thought it should. Much to Dan's chagrin, it didn't work exactly right. The panels didn't slide smoothly, and there wasn't enough room for all the different types of earrings a woman might have in her collection. So we started over from scratch. Hours later, at the end of the day, I finally had a crude but functional earring organizer that worked exactly the way I had envisioned. It worked, but it wasn't pretty. What materials was I going to use? I wasn't an artisan, craftsman, handcrafting jewelry organizer to select a few. I wanted to take my product available to every woman who loved jewelry, so wood was out. Besides, all along I imagined that the organizer would be clear and sparkly. I've always loved the way light reflects off crystal. If I could fasten the sides, it might mimic the effect, and a clear material would match any setting, which was important because no woman was going to use an organizer that clashed with her decor. True. Glass would be too fragile and expensive, so obviously I was going to need to use plastic, but plastic might look cheap, and I wanted to create something beautiful. I kept thinking. What material is clear or neutral, durable, and relatively inexpensive? In the end, it was my prototype maker who came up with the answer. He used lucite to create my prototype, but he suggested that in the future, polystyrene would be the right material for the final product because it was less expensive plastic, yet still water clear. Okay, making a prototype. How do you find a prototype maker? Today, all you have to do is Google the words prototype in your city or state, and the internet will offer you a list of prototype makers in your area. But this was 1996, and so I pulled out the yellow pages and looked up prototype makers. Sure enough, there was more than one located in Chicago, but how was I supposed to choose? As I would learn, all prototype makers are not alike. Each one specializes in fabricating products from a certain material. Some make products out of plastic, others out of metal, some of wood, and others work with fabric and textiles, to name a few. So the first thing that you need to do is find out who makes the prototypes out of the materials that you need. Then pay a visit and interview the prototype maker. Ask to see models they have made. Find out how much they charge and assess whether they are a good fit for you. Once you're satisfied with the cost and quality of their products, and your prototype maker has signed a non-disclosure agreement, that's very important. Oh, very important if you have not already filed for a patent. You will hand over the design of your invention and they will refer to your specifications to create a functional model that you can use when conducting market research and giving pitches. Earlier, I mentioned that more and more inventors are working with CAD designers to create detailed and realistic designs of the product. Increasingly, your prototype maker will use a 3D printer to create your model rather than cut shapes out of materials and then assemble the parts the way traditional machines would. 3D printers would 3D printers build up the product by putting down layers of materials, liquefied plastic, powdered metals, softened ceramic or nylon, for example, which is why another term for the process of building objects with 3D printing is additive manufacturing. Just a few years ago, 3D printing used in rapid prototyping still seemed the realm of sci-fi, but it is rapidly going mainstream. One day, we may all be printing products on demand, including your inventions, perhaps with the same ease and convenience as we print our documents at home. For now, though, CAD design and 3D printing are still highly specialized processes which require a lot of skill and training. A simple Google search will reveal that there are 3D printers catering to small business owners and entrepreneurs located all across the country. My prototype wasn't cheap. There are many types of prototypes, each one representing various levels of sophistication and detail, but the kind I needed and the one any new inventor intent on selling his or her idea will need is called a pre-production prototype. It is essentially identical to the finished product, but is made using a one-off mold, which is a lot cheaper to pay for than a permanent mold. It cost me $10,000 to make, yet I was willing to spend the money, for I was sure that the more professionally made and beautiful my prototype, the easier it would be for people to fall in love with it, and I would get the sales. I hoped my prototype would be my ticket to those holiday sales I wanted. I could pre-sell with it. I could take it with me to stores to show to buyers. Whether they were the customers I knew I'd have to pull for market research or retail buyers selecting products for their customers, I wanted to make it as easy as possible for people to imagine their organizer on a woman's dressing table. This is so important right here. I wanted to make it as easy as possible for people to imagine. It would help me make sure people were willing to buy my invention and saved me from making the worst mistake of my life. I had an incredibly strong gut instinct that I had a hero in my hands, but I wanted to make sure that my instincts were correct. Unsubstantiated enthusiasm would surely lead me to make a mistake, so I needed to do unbiased market research first. My prototype maker suggestion that I make my invention out of polyester and his additional advice that I might need something called an injection molder sent me on my next research binge. I didn't know the first thing about plastic, so I went back to the yellow pages and looked under plastics, and there was a list of companies that manufactured plastic in Chicago. This was a relief because I'd already made up my mind that I was going to do what I could to work with local companies so that at the time I could keep a close eye on the production, packaging, and any other processes necessary to usher my product into retail shelves. But aside from plastics, there were other words staring up at me from those business directory pages. Thermoforming, extrusion. It turned out there were different types of plastic manufacturing process, and I was going to have to figure out which one I needed. It seemed as if every time I got one question answered, 10 more popped up. Methodically, I started researching, reading, and making calls to educate myself about what I would need to do to bring my product to life. And sure enough, my prototype maker was right. I needed an injection molder, a factory that mass produces products by large machines to inject liquefied plastics into molds. You have all the information at your fingertips that you need to get your invention to. You have all the information at your fingertips that you need to get your invention made. If then I could figure out how to get my prototype made when my only resources were the business pages and whatever books I could lug from the home library. Today, you can use the internet and find a reliable prototype maker, as well as a manufacturer, packager, sales rep, or any other resource you need. It is worth the time and effort to educate yourself as thoroughly as possible about every aspect of your business, from design to manufacturing to packaging. Absorbing all that knowledge will be instrumental in protecting yourself from being taken advantage of and for negotiating the best deals possible. I agree. I agree 100%. You got to be educated. And, I just want to say, like, she might be talking about a product, okay? But think also about like your products and services. And, if you are a coach, because our audience are coaches, if you are a coach that sells services, well, you also have to do the research beforehand to see whether or not that particular product is going to actually be worthwhile. Like we see so many coaches that don't receive information from their audience. Like they have no clue, like what their main struggle is, how much they're earning, what's their age like, where do they hang out, what are they in need for, like have they ever worked with a coach before, like all these questions that seem very simple and that are almost like common sense, they need to be asked in order for that person to share with you what's most important for you to get that next opportunity. So I take this exact information that she's talking about, like, making a prototype and then creating all of that, from creating a mock-up to creating a prototype. It's kind of like if you are creating a course or a membership, like you have to at least one or twice, try to do an A/B testing on it. Try to share it with your friends and family and see what they like. Share it with them, if they can navigate through your website and does it look good? Does it make sense? Can they read it correctly? What do you think this means? What do you think that means? And don't take it personal, like if you're the one that's creating your stuff, or if you hire someone, ask them questions, ask them why this is there. Why does this make sense? All of that. So the last part of this chapter, which is really good, is basically what I'm kind of saying. Okay. She's saying, make opportunity work for you. Before devoting myself full time to my organizer, I had worked with a woman named Georgia. And a day or so after finding out that there was polyester and injection molding somewhere in my future, Dan and I attended her son's wedding. We didn't know anyone there, but we looked forward to a fun evening. I was midway through my appetizer in a deep conversation with the neighbor to my right when I felt Dan firmly tap me on the hand. I turned to him to see, grinning broadly. Leaning in, he said, "You're not going to believe this." And I was like, "What?" "Guess what every person at that table does." And she's like, "What?" "They're all in plastic injection molders." He grinned with A chest here's cat smile. The guy over there, he pointed across the table. He's a tool maker. And these guys over here also injection molders. But guess what? George's husband, he owns an injection molding factory about 20 minutes away from us. Unbelievable. What we needed had just fallen into our laps. I love that anecdote because I've always believed in karma and in destiny. I needed an injection molder, and there I was at a wedding where everyone at my table was in the plastic injection molding business. Georgia and I had talked often, but her husband's profession had simply never come up. So I had no idea what he did for a living. It was a brilliant stroke of luck, and I was grateful for it. But even if I had never gone to that wedding, I would have eventually found every person sitting at that table. I would have hunted them down and introduced myself and explained why they were going to want to do business with me. Success takes dogness. A few days after the wedding, I visited the tool making shop with my drawings and prototype in hand. We'll cover what to look for in a manufacturer in chapter 8, by the way. I wanted to get a general idea of what it would cost me to make an earring organizer so that I could start thinking about pricing. The owner took me on a tour of his shop, helped me understand how everything worked, explained to me what tools I would need to make my product, and gave me a quote. Then I went to the injection molding factory and had the same tour and conversation there. I found out that it would cost me $120,000 to make the 3 molds necessary to manufacturing my earring organizer in the United States. $10,000 had been a hefty sum to pay for my prototype, but 120 was eye-stopping. Sorry, eye-popping. And that was just for the tools. I knew I was still going to have to pay for graphic design, packaging, inventory, and other expenses. I was going to have to take out a bank loan to get this done, but I wasn't daunted. I did what my dad always taught me to do. I thought, what's the worst thing that could happen? Answer, it won't work out. But I had a plan in place and I was determined to make it work. So I forged ahead. Now, in the short amount of time it took my prototype to be made, I had created a questionnaire. And as soon as the prototype was ready, I had taken it to the questionnaire. I had taken it and the questionnaire to the streets of Chicago to conduct some thorough market research. The results confirmed what my innate instinct was screaming at me, which was that I had hit upon an idea whose time had come. And then she has a little prototype to-do list on this particular page. 1, finalize the dimensions of your product. 2, research the materials you will need to create it. Talk to the industry professionals to get recommendations. 3, contact at least 2 designers so you can compare bids for a CAD design. 4, get the names and locations of at least 2 prototype makers so you can compare bids. 5, confirm that your prototype maker will sign a non-disclosure agreement. And then 6, learn from the advice these professionals give you along the way. Wow. Great chapter. Really, really great. Honestly, bravo, honey. Bravo. And I don't know about you guys, but it always happens like this. I'm going to end this particular video with this one. Every single time that you put in the work and you're willing to go out there and get freaking just punched in the mouth, okay? There comes a moment that because you've put in the freaking work, you put in the time, you put in the effort, you put in the hours required, an opportunity will always fall into your lap because, oh, wow, you're so lucky. But luck favors the bold. Luck favors the doers. Luck favors the people that are willing to go out there and get it. Okay, so if you are currently trying to launch a product, launch a course, a membership, a program, some kind of awesome thing that can actually help people, get ready because there's going to be rejection. Get ready because there's going to be unexpected challenges. Get ready because people will say no. And the people that you think are for you, you will know if they're not. So I encourage you to go out there and get some rejection, because through the rejection, the more no's that you get, the more yeses are going to pop up. So I'll leave that on your mind, because I truly believe that if you're even taking the time to listen to this and invest into your education, you know this already. Okay. So go out there, go ahead and kill it. I believe in you, and I'll see you in the next one. Talk to you soon.